Alright, today on Mahone 3478 Radio, I'm going to tell you a science fiction story. A story about a birth control that was developed for men and went on to be developed for women. One day, a woman's IUD had failed. She was frustrated, angry. So, she got egg cells and put them in a livable environment and developed something to kill her egg cells as she would have her period. She would develop something that was both a spermicide in the fallopian tubes, that was both spermicide, that was both into sperm, that would kill both sperm and egg cells. So, a little bit about pregnancy. So, how pregnancy happens per egg. So she developed a gel that had both eggicide and spermicide. She developed something that had both eggicide and spermicide. Okay, she developed something with eggicide. She developed something with eggicide and spermicide that would rip apart the eggs and the sperm before they met. It had both eggicide and the spermicide. It had a super strong spermicide and a super strong eggicide. This was known as the female birth control method. She thought it would be more effective than other methods she had used. But she needed a test subject. Her being 1 in 100 women. Her being with less than 1% of women who got pregnant, even due to birth control failure, which is very frustrated. After her development, she sipped her coffee and thought, is this going to work? Or is this going to fail me like the last birth control, she thought. Well, I don't know, she said. And she went back to the drawing board. The next thing she did was develop something. The next thing she did was find a way to inject it into her fallopian tubes. She found the shape of her anatomy and built a small device to get it inside of her. She already had a baby, but that didn't matter. She just wanted something that worked. She wanted to have another baby, but not right away. She had the main ingredient in the other birth control, and a new ingredient, and something new that could kill off the eggs. It would kill both eggs and sperm, because the eggs and the sperm meet in the uterus. So her theory was that if she killed both the eggs and the sperm, she'd be double protected. So, she was about ready to have another baby by that time, but decided to try the new birth control on herself anyway. So, with the help of a doctor, with the help of her boyfriend, who was a doctor and knew the anatomy, and who was very smart and in college, she said, alright, I'm going to make a new birth control. So, he lied down, and he injected her with the gel. After the gel was made sure that it was properly inserted and firmly into place, he had been working on the other form of birth control for male. He had already developed the other form of birth control for males. He wasn't sure if this new thing would work on females, but they had done a little bit of they had first developed a thing with a little testing. They had first developed a thing with testing. They had first tested it on men, then they were testing it on her. So, they had their plan to test it, make sure it was inserted just like it was supposed to be. After they inserted it, they began to cuddle, and they began to copulate. They did this for a period of time. They copulated for about 2 or so years. Then they went on to do more testing, more cuddling, more copulating, until finally 5 years had passed. After 5 years, they went on to do more testing. So she was about 25 years old. They went on to do more and more testing. After 6 years, they determined that it was effective. After 6 years of not being pregnant, he bought a whole shit ton of pregnancy tests to make sure that she was not gonna get pregnant. They always did a pregnancy test to make sure she wasn't pregnant. She didn't get pregnant for a very, very long time. Then, they needed other test subjects. Finally, she flushed out the thing and she got pregnant right away. Then, she took it to the developers and said, "It's been tested. I tested it on myself and it seemed to work fine." It lasted for 6 years. I tested for 6 years. She had another baby, and thus went on to get her tubes tied. She then went on to get her tubes tied. She went on to tie her tubes, and after she tied her tubes, the researchers and developers thought, well, the researchers and developers went on to do clinical trials and try to make it better. But as they knew, it had already been developed. So, there was nothing to do but market it. Soon, young teenagers were trying this method out. Teenage boys and girls were trying it. Sexually active teenagers all across the world were trying this out. Trying out this new method. They tried this new method, and this new method, when Paragard had previously failed, what other methods had failed, this new method that contained both a spermicide and an egocide would FlowPro. It was called FlowPro because they didn't know what else to call it. It means pro-fallopian, or pro-fallopian tube. FlowPro was, or whatever they decided to call the birth control. You pick a name for the comments in the comment section below. Whatever it was called. When the baby would turn 18, the new birth control was on the market. Women were demanding for the new birth control. Women wanted this new birth control. They thought it would be more effective. As with any birth control, it failed sometimes. And sometimes it just... But it probably failed due to the user... Due to something in the uterus flushing it out. Due to something flushing it. It would be flushed. It could be flushed out. You know, it didn't. Sometimes it failed to kill the egg. Sometimes so. But it was very effective. And when previous methods had failed, this method would be the new method females would turn to, hoping that it would work. And that's the story of how they developed the newest, the most fresh, a fresh new form of birth control that had been developed for males earlier. That's being developed for, and by the way, there is a birth control out there that's like this one, but it's developed specifically for males, so it doesn't have an egicide. So it's a new form of birth control. This new birth control was being developed for females. But now, and today there's a new birth control, being developed for males. I hope y'all enjoyed that sci-fi story. I'll come back with more fantasy stories about new and improved things in the future. For now, I'm Mahone3478. Peace.